everyone, I'm Bill. I'm with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage. And welcome back. The 2022 BMW S1000R is up on the lift. And excitement level is out of the roof right now. But the non-excitement level to do this job is not out of the roof. So today we are tackling the header and exhaust system on the S1000R. Now, a couple things. Everything that I've ordered is going to be linked down below. Everything that I ordered is off of the S1000RR. So we're gonna have to see how this video goes. Now, if you guys are this far and you're seeing that the fairings are already removed and you're like, well, the fairings are already removed. How do we get the fairings off? We'll link up above the fairing removal and install video to get you guys all set up with the tank and fairing removal on this. This video is going to solely be your install of the header and exhaust system. Now, if you guys don't want to tackle the header system and you just want to add the slip-on exhaust, well, good thing we have a video for that. Up above, you're going to see the SC project video for just the slip-on. This video is going to be a full exhaust install. Now, we have a aero collector exhaust header system with the SC project slip-on system. Now, the header system from Aero is actually very cool, and I really like that Aero does this, is they make this so basically you can actually put your stock muffler back onto this header without the cat and all of the restrictions down below. So Aero collector header, SC project exhaust. You can see I've got everything laid out here that we're gonna need. The Aero header system is all gonna be over here. The SC project's here. And well, I've got a variety of different tools that we're gonna need. So we're gonna talk about different tools that we're gonna need. And I would highly recommend at this point in the video, you go and grab either some Red Bull or a banger or some coffee, whatever you fancy, because this job is going to be a couple-hour job. Now, if you're like, is this the job for me? No, it's not. It's not. If you're gonna question this, it's not the job for you. I would highly, highly recommend you have a motorcycle lift for this job, because getting in here, it's gonna be really a pain in the butt, and I wouldn't wanna be crawling around the ground. So without further ado, we're gonna get the chesty cam on, and I'm gonna do my best to show you guys everything in detail about pulling the existing muffler, servo, header off, and then installing the new header and exhaust system. And then if you guys get to the end of the video and you're like, yes, stay tuned, because we have a full system, Bren tune system with the flapper delete, the airbox air filter, and the tune going on. So stay tuned, but without further ado, let's get that chesty cam on and let's get the exhaust off, back on, and let's see how it goes. All right, so we're gonna be working from this way down to the front. So very first thing we're gonna be doing is removing the stock exhaust. So you're gonna need a, let's see, this is a T40 for here and a T25 for here. And then you'll need a 13 millimeter. I would go with a deep socket for the clamp. So let's go ahead and start by removing the first cover with the T25. So bolt number 1 here, bolt number 2, and number 3. All right, now we're gonna take the mounting bracket off here of the rear set. So go ahead and just crack this loose and remove the bolt. All right, last but not least, our 13 millimeter for the exhaust clamp. So we'll go ahead and get this thing loosened up completely. And with the clamp completely loosened up, you should be able to just grab the exhaust, kind of wiggle a little bit towards the back, and presto, we have the exhaust removed. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just go ahead and keep all of the bolts and everything together for the different parts of this, so that way we know exactly where everything goes. But we're actually going to be replacing most of the bolts. The only thing that's really sticking around are the header bolts, okay? So now that we've got the stock muffler off, let's go ahead and head over to the servo motor removal. All right, so we're gonna move on to the servo. Now the servo starts obviously down here, and the servo are these two cables that come up through here and attach to this little box right back here under your master at the base of the subframe, okay? So if you go right in here, you'll see that there's one little bolt right here. That's a T25. We're gonna go ahead and remove that. So I got a little swivel into there. And we'll remove this bolt, which then should free up our servo. So you're gonna see we're gonna be able to pull it down, and we actually pull it out this way. All right, so we've got this loose now. Now we're gonna follow these cables down to the actual servo cables themselves. You'll notice that back here, there's a little, I believe it's an 8mm little bolt back here, which is kind of gonna be the pain in the butt. So we're gonna try to get our little ratchet back there and get this 8mm off, which will remove the cover, which will allow us to remove the cables, which then will allow us to pull this actual servo out. All right, so I've got my little ratchet wrench here, and I particularly have these ones that flex here, which make it very, very easy to get in and be able to get on that head and just work this bolt out little by little. All right, slow and steady, I guess, wins the race. So this is the little guy that you're trying to get out, okay? There's two little clips we've got to work off this cover, one on this side and one on the other side. Let's see if we can get something to push that other clip over. And once the clip is off, this cover is going to come off. What a pain in the butt. All right, so our little cover's off. And that goes there. So we've got our cables here. So we're going to go ahead and loosen both sets of cables by getting a 10mm and just basically loosening the tightener here. So that's one. And then the one in the back, we'll loosen that one as well, which then allows the servo to come free. And then we can grab the cables and break the cables loose. All right, so now that our cables are loose, we're gonna be able to grab them, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna push and loosen this up. So you'll see up here, the box is actually coming free. And now that we're free, you're gonna see that there is one plug on the back side here. So if we flip this over, you're gonna see we've got one little plug back here that we're gonna remove the power plug and go ahead and pull. And now we've removed the servo. All right, so with the servo removed, now you can turn it over. You'll see that there are 1, 2, 3 T20 bolts. So we're gonna remove these 3 T20 bolts. And open up the servo cover. And once you do that, you're gonna see that inside, here are the 2 cables. So we're just gonna pull the cables off, and we're gonna pull the cables through. So there's some little bushings here that we're gonna have to pop off. So now these little servos need to come out, the little cables. So the best way that I found is if you just grab a little pair of pliers, get it under here, and just you're lifting it straight up towards you, and they pop right out. And the cables, you're gonna see here, this is what we're ditching. We're ditching the cables, but we're gonna take our servo and put it back together. So we're gonna go back here and put our T20s back in with the cable disconnected. All right, so now we've got everything back together. So now we can take our servo and we can go ahead and slide it back into the bike. grab our little plug, get our plug plugged back in here. Then you're gonna flip it over, and where you're going is you're going back into the little tabs. You're gonna slide them into the little tabs, which then should line up your hole here. And then you're gonna take your big bolt, thread it back through, and go ahead and get that tightened back down with the servo cable eliminated. All right, so now we're gonna work on getting the O2 sensors removed. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the other side. Now this one here is a 17 millimeter. Now I do have a 17 millimeter in this kind of that closed box wrench, which gives us a little bit better grip. So when we're removing this, the other way. So when we're removing this, we can get a good grip on it. And once it's loose, we can go ahead and remove this O2 sensor. Now over to the other side, right below the kickstand is our other O2 sensor. So we're gonna go ahead and get this one removed. All right, so now we're working on the inner O2 sensors. You can see in here, right below the oil filter. Now there's 2 plugs. There's one plug that comes up that's on your right side of your bike right here, which we're going to be snipping these little zip ties, and we're going to be getting this unplugged so that loosens it. We also need to remove this bracket right here, which we'll do so right here on the engine case, just to get it out of our way for our header removal. Now if we go to the other side, you'll see right in here that there is another O2 sensor that spirals down and is on the left side here, bottom underneath. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into here, snip tie this, snip that zip tie, and then get that O2 sensor unplugged. But this side, we're really not gonna mess with too much of the radiator and stuff over here, although we are gonna get the radiator loose up here so we can kind of pull it away from the header. We've got enough room to get into the header bolts on this side, so that's what we're gonna do, is leave the radiator actually hooked up to its radiator hoses, but we have to remove the O2 sensor plugs here. All right, so with that zip tie cut, you're able to rotate this O2 sensor plug over to the right, and it actually comes out, which then allows you to access the button to push, let's see, push or pull. Pull out and push, and your O2 sensor will then disconnect. Now we're gonna take this O2 sensor and we're gonna route it down to the bottom and out of the bike. So now we've got the O2 sensor through there. Now we've got this one loose. We're gonna go ahead and remove this bracket over here to give us some room here to work with the header system. All right, so a T27, and we're just gonna remove this bracket completely. So now we've got this up out of the way. We're gonna keep this for later because we are gonna need that again after we get the header on. So now you see we've got a little bit more room. We've got a little bit more ease. We can actually zip tie all that up, and you can see now we've got a nice area to work. Now the next thing I am going to do is I actually am going to remove the horn in addition, just to give us that little bit more room. All right, so for the horn we're moving up to a T40, and we're going to go ahead and remove the horn bracket. And once the horn bracket is removed, then we can unplug the horn and set it aside. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to go ahead, put that there. And then we'll go ahead and snip this zip tie and get the horn unplugged. All right, so the zip tie is cut. Now we can go ahead and push our button and release our horn from its plug and set the horn aside. So now, oh boy, now we've got some room in here. This is what I like to see. So I'm gonna grab a zip tie and zip tie this, I think this is our clutch cable over here. I'm gonna zip tie it up with all of the plugs so we've got a nice little room to work in here for the header. All right, it's a little bit dark, but right here, you're gonna see there's one zip tie here for our other O2 sensor on the other side. So we're gonna try to get in there and get that thing snipped. All right, so we're snipped. So we're gonna go ahead and rotate this over to the right. And now we're free. We're gonna go ahead and push our little O2 plug out. Let's see, probably pull it up through here. And we'll pull this out here and remove the plug. So now we're unplugged, so we can go ahead and feed this down. And you're gonna see that there's one little holder here and one little holder inside. So we're gonna pull this out of those holders, keeping the holders in place. And now we've got the access to our second O2 sensor here. So let's go ahead and move and get these O2 sensors. We can get these actually removed when the header comes out. So these are gonna be the harder ones to get. So just remove these when the headers come out, okay? So now we're gonna move over back to the back and we're gonna start working on getting the catalytic converter removed. Right in between the chain here, you'll see there's a little bolt. It looks like it's gonna be like a 50, T50. So we're gonna get that thing removed first. All right, so the T40 actually. So let's go ahead and get that in there and get this bolt removed. And we'll go ahead and remove the T40 bolt here. So now we're kind of loose back here. We're in a couple hangers, but we're loose back here. So now what we can do is start working our way back up here and to the radiator. We're gonna get the radiator unbolted and loose so we can move that around. And then we can get the header bolts off. All right, so now down to unmounting the radiator, 227 T's, one on each side. We're gonna go ahead and remove these completely, which should basically let this set down. Now, there are two little hangers right in here. You're gonna see this silver piece here loops around, and if we pull the one, we can pull the one out for the bottom, and then if we push the one up for the bottom, push it upwards, it will release out, which then will allow this radiator to kind of, we're gonna still be hooked up obviously to the hoses, but it's gonna give us a little bit more room to be able to kind of push it away to access the header and the header bolts. So let's go ahead and remove with our 27 millimeter small extension and remove bolt number 1 here. And onto bolt number 2 on the other side here. All right, so the last little piece that I found that we needed to kind of get this radiator real loose is the radiator reservoir bolt. So we're gonna pull that out of there, which then allows this radiator to kind of be pushed over. Now you can see I've got both of the tabs released from this holder. So now we've got a little bit of room to be able to push this around. You don't have much room, you guys. There's not much room in here. So what we want to do is we're going to end up taking a piece of little cardboard and sticking it in here and back here to kind of protect the radiator fins to make sure that they don't get bent over. I'll show you that here in a brief second. But now we're kind of loose here. Now we can start talking about removing the header. So now you guys are pretty much here. We're ready. So let's go ahead and get into it and start removing the header bolts. All right, so protect the back of your radiator. Now, if you guys want to go the full bit and take the radiator off, you can take these hoses off here, unbolt the oil cooler, which is going to make a mess, and then over on the other side, your radiator cooler. But I experienced when I did the RR that there's enough room, especially with this dismounted, that there's enough room for you to get back in here. But what we've done is we've taped some cardboard on the back of both the oil cooler and the radiator just to kind of protect it a little bit so we don't get any bent fins back here, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start working on removing all 2, 4, 6, 8 of those bolts, which then hold the header in. So then now once those 8 bolts are out, now we can basically get the header dropped down and out of the bike. All right, so here is one of the header bolts, okay? You're gonna see it's a multi-point. I believe it's a 12 or 18, maybe 24, I don't know, I'm not gonna count. But you'll see the socket that I have is also a multi-point. So it is a 10 millimeter bolt. There are 8 of these little guys to come out. Now, I will tell you, I'm not gonna sit and tell you which tools I use where, but you're gonna need obviously your ratchet. You're gonna want a swivel. You're gonna want a couple different size extensions. And I will tell you that this came in handy last time. It's called a tight reach. And the tight reach, basically what you do is you're gonna put the socket on one end and you're gonna put this on the other end. And then this allows us to get in to that tight reach and get these bolts done. I don't know which one I'm gonna use where, but this is not gonna be something I'm gonna film. I'm not gonna film finagling getting all of these bolts out, because this is probably gonna be a 30-minute deal just getting these 8 bolts out, because you've got some up here. So you'll see we've got some up low, some up high. You'll see in the middle, there's 2 that are right next to each other. So it's really a pain in the butt to get these bolts out. So I'll tell you, there's no easy way to do it. Take your time, but get the 8 bolts out and have your variety of tools ready to roll. So let's go ahead and tackle this and get the rest of the bolts out. All right, so I'm actually only about 10 minutes in, and you can see I've got 5 of the 8 bolts out. We've got 6, 7, and 8 on the other side. But the tool I used was a swivel on a 10mm multi-point and a ratchet. I was able to reach number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and over to number 5, which is the 3rd header on this side. Okay, so now let's head over to the other side. Now on this side, we're back to the swivel socket for this one. You can see it's loose, but we haven't really taken it completely off. But those 2 in there, right behind the fan, those I had to use the 10mm with the tight right, so this one, and you'll see that I was able to squeeze this thing right in there. It's a little hard to see, and get those 2 loose. So tight right with the socket and the 10mm for number 6, 7, and then the swivel back for number 8, and then the headers are all unbolted. All right, so if you've reached this part of the video, you guys know that we are ready to take this header out. Almost. Wait a minute, there's one more thing. Now, the little bracket piece here is kind of, it's a little tight in here with the header. So we're gonna grab the header, we're gonna pull the header forward and drop it down. But unfortunately, it's gonna rest on this little bracket. But it gives us some room to get our socket in there and remove this bracket. So we're gonna go ahead and grab the header, hold it tight, and wiggle it down. And see, we're almost down, we're almost loose, but now we're getting hung up on this little bracket right here. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this bolt for this bracket. All right, so once we've removed that, we can go ahead and snake this little thing out of here. And now we should, in theory, be completely loose that we can pull the header down. Pull the radiator out a little bit. Just getting caught up right here on this hose, and voila, here we are. Here's our stock header. Well, I think that's it for today. We're gonna pick this up tomorrow, where we are going to be now installing the aftermarket header. You know, let's do this. Give me 1 second. So we know this is an S1000RR header, and we actually really don't know if it actually fits yet. So let's do a little test fit. All right, well, I think it looks like it fits perfect. So what we'll go ahead and do is go ahead and get this thing mounted tomorrow and start wrapping this up and see how it all fits and see how it all sounds. All right, so we are about halfway through the install. At this point of the video, you guys should have the exhaust off and you guys should be getting ready to put it on. Now, I've got a special guest today in the garage helping me with the install, the world famous Jack Roach. That's right, Moto America,
What's up?
Junior Cup. He's been staying with me for the week and getting ready. Where are you guys going? Minnesota? Minnesota for the next round. But congrats on the 6th place on an R3 at Laguna.
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna give you serious props because that R3 is the slowest of all of the bikes. So, but
I didn't say that.
I'll say it. But anyways, we have the we have the stock exhaust, and we have the exhaust that will be going on, and well, we've got our scale. You're looking mighty fine there, kid.
don't show the slide.
All right, so we've got the weigh scale, and we're gonna go ahead and get this on my lovely assistant. Let's get this on the scale and see what our stock exhaust muffler cat header system weighs. A whopping 23 pounds, 10 ounces. That's about a quarter of you. No, actually, a sixth of you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and get the stock exhaust off. And let's go ahead and get the stainless steel aero header and titanium SC project. Like world of difference, huh?
Yeah, I was going down to like use some muscle, but
get your back into it, baby. All right. Any guesses? Oh, you already saw it. All right.
I didn't see it actually.
9 pounds, 4 ounces. Oh my goodness. Like 15 pounds of weight. That's huge. That's huge. I think that that's more than any bike that we've done so far. So it looks like it's gonna be hopefully a fairly easy install. We're gonna go ahead and get the exhaust, the header back on, muffler and everything, and we get you a first start. So without further ado, let's get the exhaust back onto the bike and see how it fits up. All right, so first thing we're gonna do with the header is we are going to get the springs on the bottom side of the header. So you're gonna grab your springs that are supplied by Aero with the little Aero spring puller, and you're just gonna pull these. So we're gonna get, this is where an assistant will be helpful because they can hold the header down while you kind of stretch these springs on. And so on the bottom, you're gonna go ahead and stretch 2 springs on the one to each one. So kind of self-explanatory, but sometimes you got to explain things to people. All right, so then go up to the second one. And our final. All right, so now we've got all the springs on the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and flip this over. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the O2 sensors plugged back in. So you should have had them completely removed, the 2 big O2 sensors, and then the 2 smaller ones are still on the bike. So these will go in later, but these will have to go ahead and install in each side here and here. All right, so once you have them installed, I'm just gonna run these cables down to the bottom to kind of keep them out of the way, okay? These will get plugged in later. Now what we're gonna do is we're going to start working into our exhaust ports here, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be taking our headers, our header flange bolts here. So you can see it doesn't matter which way they go because they're pretty much universal. We're gonna be sticking the flange side that's got the gap here. This goes on obviously there, and this goes into the bike. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna place these all into the bike and lightly tighten them so they don't come out. And then what we're gonna do is then we're gonna start working the exhaust system into there and then get everything tightened up afterwards. So don't tighten these down complete yet, just enough to keep these flanges from falling out. All right, so you're gonna grab each set and you're gonna stick this right in the exhaust port, and you're just gonna basically set it right in enough, and then you're gonna thread 2 bolts on just enough to kind of keep this secure. All right, so you can see it's in there, it's secure, but these bolts are just finger tight. We don't want to make them too tight. And now we're going to continue with number 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4. We're gonna go ahead and take our radiator brace and mount it back up and get the radiator braced, and then we're gonna get the header in there. All right, so we've got the radiator brace back in. The smaller side goes up top and the longer side goes down to the bottom, and they're plugged in. So now we're gonna go ahead and get the T27 and get that tightened up right there. All right guys, so there is a correct and wrong way to put these on, and there's actually two ways that you can flip them, okay? So when you guys get to here, before you've installed the header, you are going to put this one above the bolt, below the bolt, above the bolt, below the bolt, and then the other two on the other side are below the bolt, above the bolt, below the bolt, above the bolt. So you are above, above, below, below, okay? Then you're gonna hang all your springs, and once you got your springs mounted and all of them are hanging like you'll see here, now, and of course you've got this, then you can grab your header. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this, and it is going to be very, very helpful to have a second hand. So we're gonna slide this up and into the collector. So I'm gonna put you down for a second and show you guys after it's mounted in there how it all fits. All right, so again, very helpful to have somebody over there. Thank you, little buddy. And you wanna get these collectors kind of wiggled in so they're all the way into the holders. Make sure you don't pull any of the springs out. You want to make sure they're just nice and cusped in here. And now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your spring puller tool, and you're going to start going around and pulling all the springs. Now I'm not going to go through and do every single one for you guys, because this is probably going to be about a half an hour for you guys to get some of the inner ones figured out, how to get them pulled. It's going to be a pain in the butt. So good luck, and we'll see you back here when you guys are finished. Guys, this is Bill from the future. Listen, I'm about to tell you to use this puller. I'm telling you, don't use this puller. The manufacturers are out to get you. You're gonna need an 8-inch screwdriver. I'm telling you, they're here. They're here. I gotta go. All right, guys. Well, if you've made it this far, you've done one of two things. Either you were on the phone with the insurance company because, well, coincidentally enough, the bike fell off the lift while you were trying to put the springs on, or maybe you pushed it off the lift, or you are a couple hours into getting these springs off and you can't figure out how in the heck this tool works. Hopefully you received my message from the future to go get an 8-inch flathead Craftsman screwdriver. And what you're gonna do is, this is long enough to be able to leverage into some of these tighter points. So what I figured out to do basically is get this on the spring. And once you got it on the spring, you can actually use the leverage hook to bring that spring in. And once you do, you're able to kind of finagle this in to get the spring in. So your two major hurdles are going to be the two in the middle. Those probably took me 30 minutes to do, and I was able to do them with the smaller screwdriver. This is a 6-inch, but this morning I had to go get an 8-inch to get from the other side to get this one here. So finally we are at the point that all 8 springs are tight. We haven't tightened this. We're going to talk about these nuts and how much of a pain in the butt it's going to be to do the nuts, but we do have everything springed up, and we're ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be buttoning everything up, getting the O2 sensors plugged in and whatnot. So let's go ahead and move on to the next steps. We're sprung. Let's go ahead into now getting our O2 sensors run back up and everything kind of plugged back in. Start back with the mid pipe to the exhaust and start getting this thing going. All right, so remember we installed these O2 sensors before we put them in. So we want to identify the one closest to us here on the right side of the bike. We want to grab this, run it up through. Now remember, right above the oil filter is a clip. we're gonna clip it into this clip, then we're gonna clip it into this clip, run it over here, and then that's where we screw everything back in with the bracket, which is right here. So we're gonna be able to put that back in. So let's go ahead and run up, clip it, and get it ready to bolt in back here on the bracket. All right, so remember the bracket goes in this direction. We've got the little screw holder on the outside, the place that this screws in on the inside, the screw goes in, and this little U goes to the forward right. And remember, it goes right in. All right, so with your bracket on, you're gonna be able to click the clutch cable over to the side. You're gonna take this and get this plugged in, and we want the wires to the engine side away from the header. So you're gonna go ahead and plug that in like that. There we go. And then we can plug the O2 sensor in here. So we're up away from the header, and now we can move on to the other side. All right, so onto the other side now. This is a little bit tight, so you're gonna see there was another clip here that I don't think we're gonna be able to get into. We might be able to loop it around. Then we're gonna come to this clip, then we're gonna clip the O2 sensor in here, and then plug it in, and then zip tie up all of the additional wires, okay? All right, so with the little O2 sensors, what you're going to do is you're actually going to twist this about 6 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns counterclockwise, because once you get it into the sensor and you start twisting it clockwise to tighten the sensor, it's going to unravel and then be straight. And then again, you're going to repeat for this side, twist it counterclockwise, clockwise in, and then get it nice and tight. And now we're on to the connector pipe. All right, so for the connector pipe, you're using the little end here with the bracket. The bracket's gonna end up lining up right where this bolt goes in. And you're gonna notice that Arrow supplied a bolt and nut to go through here onto the other side to bolt this connector piece down. Now, again, you're using the two flange. You're gonna line up the 2 flanges with your 2 flanges because you have 2 more springs left. So you're gonna go ahead and get this in here and go ahead and slide that connector in. And then you're gonna go ahead and grab your 2 springs. And this one you can use the puller on. And you're gonna pull the springs tight and get everything connected. All right, you've got the springs on. Now you've got a little bit of movement in here. You're gonna grab your bolt supplied by Arrow, put a washer on it, and you're gonna thread it through the connector pipe, through that middle pipe, washer, and then your locking nut. Then you're gonna get them tightened down. All right, so we're all tight down here. You can see nice and secure, but we have one last headache of the bunch. And that unfortunately is the 10mm bolts that you guys never tightened down. And now Arrow has said, wait until the very end to tighten these 10mm down. And one of the problems that we are going to run into is these springs. So what I've figured out is if we take these springs and move them over to the other side. So I grabbed a pair of needle nose pliers and take the spring and don't pull them off. But what you're gonna wanna do is flip this spring over. So let me get both hands and flip it over to show you guys an example. All right, so now everything is bolted up. We're nice and secure here. O2 sensors are all plugged in. Now, unfortunately, we have to come back to the header and tighten down all of the 10mm bolts. Now, lucky for us, or lucky for you, you have me to kind of do a trial and error, because this is the second time I've filmed this to tell you guys and how the best way to go with this. Now, unfortunately, these springs get in the way of the bolt. Now, fortunately, this bolt and this bolt over here are already tight, but I did remove this spring and this spring. Luckily, it's the 2 outer springs that are easy to be removed. On the other side, again, it's the 2 outer rings. Remove them, tighten the 10mm, and then respring it. I know you guys don't want to mess with these springs, but it's the easier of the poisons. Trust me, you're not going to be able to access the 10mm. So pull these 2 outer springs out. The inner springs you can all reach with your 10mm. So pull the outers out, tighten it, put them back on. All right, so we finally have the header secure. Look how tight this is, right? You're good and tight, so let's go ahead and button up the rest of the stuff. I'm just gonna point out everything that we need to kind of speed this up. I know it's been a long video, but we're gonna go ahead and tighten this thing back up. We're gonna get the radiator bolted back up to the frame. Okay, so the 2 radiator bolts, this one, then we have our horn. We've got to remount the horn with the bolt here, and then just button up everything that we took apart on this side. I don't think there's anything on the other side that we need to button up except for the radiator, and then get everything plugged in. And I think that's about it. Then we can start moving to the exhaust side. All right, well, I have to give you guys a big congratulations. If you've made it this far in the video, you now know what a pain in the butt putting a header on a 2022, 2021, 2020 BMW S1000 either R or RR is. Now, I want to confirm that the 2020 BMW S1000 RR Aero header collector does fit. It is a perfect fit, very nice, very secure. So we've got everything buttoned up and we're ready to move to the exhaust side. And now for some of you, this is basically where what I like about the Aero exhaust is this collector pipe. I can put a stock pipe back on it. I can put a SC Project slip-on on it. I can put an Akapovic slip-on. Any slip-on that fits onto an S1000 RR will fit this collector. I've chosen the SC Project. I think it's the CRT titanium. So for us, we're going to go ahead and actually slide this onto the collector and get this mounted up. I think we got to loosen this just a teeny bit. So let's go ahead and get this mounted, and we'll start mounting the plates for the SC Project, get everything bolted up, and we are complete. All right, so for you SC Project guys, we're gonna go ahead and put on our bracket, which is gonna hold the the carbon fiber heel guard on here. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing just kind of wiggled on and slid onto the either whatever collector you've got. I'm assuming you've gone the Aero collector just like I have. And this bracket is going to be in the front. So we're gonna put this bracket in the front and wiggle it on. All right, so we are completely done and mounted. Everything is nice and secure. All your O2 sensors are buttoned up, your horn's back on, your radiator's mounted back up. Everything is done. There is one final thing to do, and that is your final cleaning. Grab some alcohol, get a rag, douse the rag with alcohol, and you are cleaning off all of your grubby little paw prints off of the header. Try to get in here as much as possible. Now, this is particularly a stainless steel header. I didn't opt to go with the Big Daddy titanium. Kind of didn't feel like I needed to spend that extra money, but this is the stainless steel, but we still want to get it wiped down. There's still a bunch of fingerprints, but then of course we got over to the titanium pipe, and this again we want to get wiped down because we don't want our fingerprints and oils to burn into any of the exhaust. So grab your alcohol and get it wiped down, and get ready for an outro. All right, well, welcome to the end of the video. If you guys have made it this far, I gotta give you guys a huge congratulations. If you guys have taken on this task and you finished the install of the header on your single R or your double R, congratulations. Now, if you guys have done this without a lift, super congratulations to you, because I don't know how I would have done it without the lift. What a pain in the butt. You're looking at about a 2 hour to 3 hour consecutive job. I actually did this over 3 days, and you know, worked on it a little bit here, worked on it a little bit there, but huge pain in the butt. So if you guys have made it this far, congratulations. Now, if you've also made it this far, you're waiting for the one thing, and that's the cold start that I am going to unfortunately disappoint you in this video, because we have the tank off, and tomorrow's video is the install of the Bren-Tune flapper delete, the air filter, and the Bren-Tune tuning for the bike. Then we'll get you a cold start. Now, I would highly recommend contacting your tuner company, whoever it may be. If it's Shiv over at Open Flash, if it's Bren Tuning, if it's UpMap, whoever you use, I don't care. I don't want to be, this is better than this, I don't know. I am going to be using the Bren-Tune only because I know the Bren-Tune has tunes for this bike. But if you have an RR, contact Shiv over at Open Flash because they've got a great tune over there. Contact your tuner and get a tune. The ECU does self-adjust pretty well, but you want to get a tune. So thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's a long video. I tried to make these videos as informational as possible. So if you guys have made it down this far, hopefully you guys used a little ticker down at the bottom. I've tried to categorize everything step by step on how to get the headers in. But thank you guys for sticking around. Again, tomorrow we're gonna have the Bren-Tune all installed, and we will get you your first start. So thank you guys again. Do the normal, hit the subscribe button. Please give me a like. This thing was not an easy task to film a DIY. So please smash the like button, and then ring that bell notification for future content, because we've got some things going on with this. If you guys are new to the channel, we do have an XR, which has a full exhaust system here for that as well. We've got a new exhaust system going on for the Ducati Street Fighter, so stick around. But thank you guys, and we'll see you next video. Bye guys.